Families lose, billionaires win. That is the proposition at the heart of the Republican budget resolution. Now, this plan is going to be explored tonight through a series of amendments. And as the American people watch how we vote on these amendments, it'll become clearer and clearer what it's all about. Families lose, billionaires win. We will see tonight that Democrats vote against irreparable increases to the deficit, and Republicans vote to explode the deficit. We will see tonight Democrats vote against tax giveaways to the billionaires, and Republicans vote for tax giveaways to the billionaires. We will see tonight Democrats vote again and again to protect programs that support families, while Republicans vote time and time again to slash those programs. Those programs families depend on to be on their feet and to thrive, to move into the middle class, to move beyond the middle class, to know with confidence that their children will have a strong foundation for growing up. That is what we will see tonight. Families lose and billionaires win. Democrats will fight this terrible vision for America in every single way we can. Now, our Republican colleagues earlier on the floor said, oh, no, this bill is nothing except a little bit about border security and national security. If that were true, then why isn't this a conversation in the Spending Committee, the Appropriations Committee? If that were true, why did our Republican colleagues repeatedly block bipartisan border and defense bills? Last year, the Appropriations Committee passed a strong bipartisan defense bill. Let's pass it. Last year, the Senate negotiated a bipartisan border deal, and Donald Trump, the candidate, killed it, saying he wanted to exploit the issue of immigration on the campaign trail. Well, the campaign is over. There is a path now for that same bipartisan bill on the border. All of this makes it absolutely clear that this bill is not about border and defense. This bill is all about this: families losing, billionaires winning. This bill has a budget table that relays that they're going to slash $1 trillion in programs for families in just the last 6 months of this fiscal year, between now and September 30th. And to do so, to fund more tax giveaways to mega millionaires and billionaires. Cut the programs for families to fund tax cuts for billionaires. That's what this is about. We saw that also last Wednesday in the Budget Committee. Democrats offered amendment after amendment to protect programs. And what did we see? Protect against the rising cost of groceries. Democrats voted for that protection. Republicans rejected it. Make sure that we don't lose the tax credits that enable middle class to buy health insurance on the exchange. Democrats defended those credits. Republicans voted against it. Attack Medicaid, health care for the poor. Democrats voted to protect Medicaid, and Republicans voted against it. Lower the price of prescription drugs so we don't pay more than people in other countries. Democrats voted for that protection. Republicans rejected it. And on, renting or buying a home, controlling the costs. Democrats voted to defend and lower housing costs. Republicans rejected it. Making college more expensive. Democrats said no way. We voted against that. Republicans rejected so they could raise costs on college loans and on child care. That's what this bill is about. Families lose and billionaires win. Republicans rejected every single amendment to help families stand on their feet and thrive, and families are going to pay a much higher price. In fact, this budget resolution opens the door to higher prices on groceries. That's Trumpflation. Trumpflation has arrived. This budget opens the door to making health care more expensive, both for low-income families and for middle-class families. Trumpflation. This budget opens the door to making college more expensive. I was the first in my family to go to college. It was a really big deal that we found a way to be able to afford to go. My family helped out, and I worked my way all through college. Making it more expensive? That's wrong. Trumpflation has arrived in the form of making college more expensive. All of this strategy to increase the costs for Americans. Why? I'm not getting any calls to my office. Are you getting any calls to your office, colleagues? Saying we want to raise the cost of America? Didn't I hear Trump on the campaign trail saying he was all about lowering costs? But tonight, this bill is about Trumpflation, increasing the cost of goods to ordinary Americans. Yes, it's about decreasing the cost to billionaires through massive tax cuts. This bill is all about helping the billionaire team. But those thousands of phone calls I've gotten some days, I've had over 2,000 phone calls, not one single one said we want Trumpflation. Not one single one said we want tax cuts for billionaires. Not one single call at $2,000 a day said we want you to cut the programs that enable families to be on their feet in health care and housing and education and child care. Candidate Trump is a different person from President Trump. Candidate Trump said, I'm running to fight for families. But now, who's he fighting for? He's fighting for the mega millionaires and the billionaires. This is a great betrayal. And this connection exists between cutting the programs for families and funding tax giveaways to those mega millionaires and billionaires. And we've seen this movie before. We saw it in the 2017 strategy during the last Trump administration. They did a tax bill, and almost all the money went to the wealthiest Americans. So this isn't some fiction about President Trump. This is a clear replay of the Republican plan. They did it before, and they're doing it again. Now, you've probably heard the expression during your life, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Well, America, you're getting fooled a second time. This is the great betrayal. Let's not let that happen. We will fight it here. But it's going to take American citizens rising up to their feet, getting off of the couch, joining organizations, making their voice heard. That's what's going to make the difference in the course of what happens here in Congress. It is the voice of the people on the streets, as well as the battle we lead inside this chamber, that is going to save us from Trumpflation, that's going to save us from the plan that attacks families and feathers the nest of billionaires. This connection between cutting programs for families and increasing tax giveaways for billionaires, it's actually in the Republican bill on the House side. They made it explicit. This House language says for every additional dollar they cut from the safety net, they can give away an additional dollar to billionaires in tax cuts. It's in the Republican bill in the House just down the hall. That's a pretty remarkable and bold thing to lay out for all of America to read. There is an additional factor here in the Republican plan, and that is to run the nation deeper into debt. We have seen this play again before. Each of these bars represents an administration. The first President Bush administration, the Clinton administration, George W. Bush, his 8 years, Obama's 8 years, Trump's 4 years, Biden's 4 years. Now, what you see is the difference between the deficit their first year in office and their last year in office. So what happened over the course of H.W. Bush's 4 years is the deficit went up. What you see in Clinton's 8 years is the annual deficit went down. His last deficit was not even a deficit, it was a surplus. George W. Bush came along and said, let's run that deficit right back up. And he did it. 8 years, a lot more deficit his 8th year than his 1st year. Obama came along and said, fiscal discipline, let's lower that deficit, and he lowered it year after year from his 1st year to his 8th year. And then we come to the first Trump administration, and he just blew the top off it all. Talk about the biggest contributor, the biggest deficits, the biggest contributor to national debt. It's the first Trump administration. And along comes the Biden administration and says, we got to lower those deficits. And his 4 years, his 4th deficit was much lower than his 1st. Now we're seeing Trump 2. And this budget plan tonight, that's this bar. This is going back up. Maybe not as large to be planned as Trump 1 in terms of debt, but absolutely going in the wrong direction. So it's a mystery. My Republican colleagues, they campaign as fiscally conservative. They say they're going to lower the deficit, and every single time they fool us. They come in here, they cut the taxes for the richest Americans, revenues proceed to fail to compensate, and they run up the deficit. And now they're going to do it again if we let this budget resolution pass. So let's not let it pass. Let's oppose it. Republican colleagues, come and join us in fiscal responsibility and take this budget resolution, laying out a vision of more and more deficits and more debt, and put it in the wood chipper. We've been hearing a lot about the wood chipper. Take this plan that cuts programs for families and put it in the wood chipper. Take this plan that gives tax giveaways to the richest Americans, the mega millionaires and the billionaires, and put it in the wood chipper, because it is wrong for America to attack the programs for families in order to fund tax giveaways to billionaires. President Trump has said he wants a big, beautiful bill. But you know what? There's nothing beautiful about the bill that is on the floor tonight. There's nothing beautiful about destroying the programs families depend on. There's nothing beautiful about using those cuts to fund tax cuts for billionaires. There's nothing beautiful about running up the deficits and debt Republican style that they do every single time. What we have right now is not government by and for the people. What we have right now is by and for the billionaires. President Trump made that very clear at his inaugural address. Who do we have standing right behind him? Mark Zuckerberg, the billionaire of Facebook. At this end, the scowl on his face, Elon Musk, CEO of so many companies, including Tesla. Who do we have? Jeff Bezos of Amazon, one of the richest men in the world, along with Elon Musk. And we have Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Alphabet, the mother company of Google. By and for billionaires, that's what that's all about. So Democrats will not rest tonight until we vote on each of our amendments to protect working families. We will not rest tonight till we vote on each of our amendments to stop the tax giveaways to billionaires. And tonight, Democrats will be fighting by ourselves, inviting our Republican colleagues to join us. But we will not be fighting for ourselves alone. We are fighting for the American family. This Republican budget, it is the great betrayal, and we, the Democrats, will fight to stop it. Thank you, Mr. President.